This month on our year-end edition of Newton Newsmakers, a new mayor, 5 new aldermen, and 3 new school committee members take office January 1st. We will talk with some Newton residents who helped shape public opinion this year, who's in, who's out, and who are Newton's new power players, and what parts of the city influence what happens at City Hall. It's a no-holds-barred conversation with our panel of political and community activists. All that plus the top 10 things a newly elected alderman hears from people on the streets of Newton. That's next on Newton Newsmakers.
Newton Newsmakers is made possible through the generous support of First Commons Bank on Beacon Street in Newton Center, representing the future of banking with an inviting environment, the latest banking technologies, and a personal touch to make banking convenient, simple, and sensible. Also at firstcommonsbank.com.
Hi everybody, I'm Charlie Shapiro. Welcome to Newton Newsmakers. The transition from 12 years of Mayor David Cohen to year number 1 of Mayor Seti Warren is now underway. It's been an impressive year for a guy who just 18 months ago was far from a household name, especially when compared with some of the other mayoral candidates. With us today on the program, 4 people who helped shape opinions in the city in their own ways. Ed Prisby, will start off with him. He's an early Seti Warren supporter, a regular contributor to the Newton Tabs blog, and writes his own blog, and you can find that at edprisby.wordpress.com. Myra Tattenbaum is a former school committee member, former alderman as well, and current member of the League of Women Voters. Myra supported Ruth Balzer for mayor. We also have Emily Norton with us. Emily is a community activist, a founding member of Newton 2020, as well as the Political Action Committee. What is the actual name of the Political Action Committee?
Committee to elect great school committee members.
Okay. And Shawn Fitzgibbons was the campaign manager for Ken Parker. Shawn joins us as well, and Shawn was is an active member of the Newton Democratic City Committee and a bunch of other things that I'm sure you'll tell us about as well. All exciting.
Very exciting.
Good. All right, so here's what I'd like to do. Let's start off with, there were really sort of 5 big winners, I think, in the election this year. Seti, obviously, Ruth Ann Fuller, Margie Ross Dector, and I want to give you a chance to sort of give me an idea why you think that those 3 out of the 5, and we'll get to a couple of others in a few minutes, but why those 3 out of 5 were so popular and got into office in such an extraordinary way. Now, obviously, let's start with Ed to start off with, but Seti only won by a few hundred votes, but it really was a spectacular operation that got him in, considering where he started and being elected mayor at the end. So how did that shake out, and why were you with him at the beginning?
Well, Charlie, you're absolutely right. It was exciting, and especially when you consider where he was to start. The trajectory of the campaign was, it swung upwards. At any given moment, however, with the grassroots campaign, it was very exciting, and you never quite knew where we were. This is a local campaign. We didn't have a whole lot to go on other than belief in what we were doing, belief in the candidate, and belief in the message. But as of February, when we were doing phone banking, I would call people up and I would say, hi, my name is Ed Prisby, calling you on behalf of the Seti Warren campaign. Have you heard of Seti? And people would say, yeah, I've heard of her. So they really had no idea who he was. And, as of February and March, we didn't really have any idea where we were, but we had a belief in our candidate, and we stuck to the game plan, which was knocking on doors, IDing voters, identifying our supporters, so we could get our supporters to then go out and knock on more doors and knock on more doors.
When you say IDing supporters, for folks that don't follow it as closely as the folks around this table, what do you
Sure.
actually mean by that?
Finding people who identified with our message and who believed in what we were saying, reforming Newton government, open and honest communication with city residents, fiscal responsibility, and seeing if they'd heard of Seti, and if they had, if they would like Seti to come to a house party, inviting some of their friends, talking to the people after the house party, can we count on your support? If they said yes, great, sign them up, get them in, and have them in turn do some volunteering and getting the word out.
Okay. Well, obviously it was a successful strategy. Let's go to Myra for a second, because you've kind of been there and done that and been a part of what's going on in Newton and for a good number of years. Did Ruth lose because SETI was able to brand himself as the future and cast her as the past?
You know, it's a very hard thing to figure out, and I'm still trying to think about it. I like in the election, not that Ruth is Hillary Clinton or that SETI is President Obama, but I liken it to an older, more political woman working, competing against a younger man who comes in with a message of something new. And I think there is a sense of that going on to a certain degree, that Ruth may have been thought of as the old politics. Let's get rid of the old politics. I'm not sure. It's a really hard thing to figure out, because the standard of getting out the vote, identifying who your supporters are and making sure they come out and vote is, most political people know that that is the technique that you use, and the person who gets the most of their voters out is the one who wins. So it's very hard to know why experience didn't make it over youth and a fresh point of view.
Okay, because the word experience was bantered around, obviously, during the whole campaign. I mean, SETI had his string of experiences and his different positions with,
Right.
federal and state, and John Kerry's office, and we can talk about that a little bit towards the end of the program, or just in a little bit. And obviously, Ruth has had a wealth of experience with alderman and state rep for a dozen years
Right.
or so. So I mean, it seems like they were both touting their experience in whatever ways they possibly could, and it almost looked as though it was sort of the freshness of the new vitality type of thing.
I think you may very well be right, and SETI is certainly a perfectly wonderful person, and I certainly can't say that Newton lost in this case. And he's very attractive, he's very intelligent, and it's just that we don't have the record of his experience the way we do Ruth. And that was my sense with why I supported Ruth.
Charlie, to give you an example of how important SETI's strategy was in getting out voters, roughly 250 or so people wrote in somebody for mayor. Roughly 250 people or so left it blank. Actually, people actually showed up and left that space blank, if you can believe it. If Ruth had gotten all of those people, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You'd be asking Myra about Ruth's the representative strategy, and I'd be talking about why SETI's grassroots campaign didn't work. So this was really close. Everything in the Warren campaign had to work out almost exactly the way it did for us to pull this off. The benefits of the grassroots strategy in this case are obvious. We won and we got more of our voters to the polls, but at the same time it took a while to build and crest, and it crested. The enthusiasm for SETI crested at exactly the right time. And here we are on December 1st talking about it.
Let's talk with Emily for a second, because you were very involved in trying to get new members of the school committee elected, new people to the school committee. First of all, why did you spend so much time doing this? How did you get involved? And I guess in a nutshell, why do you care so much that you put all this time in?
I think for me it started with Newton North. I was very concerned when I saw how much we're spending on one building when we have so many other buildings that have a lot of problems, and when we've been making cuts every year because our school system has been basically running a deficit. So we've been losing positions, losing teachers, losing aides, losing librarians, social workers, and my son's bathroom, actually at Horace Mann Elementary School, for a time there was not a working faucet in the bathroom that he used, so he could not wash his hands after going to the bathroom. And I thought, we're building a $200 million high school when my son can't wash his hands. I'm happy to say that there are functioning faucets now at Horace Mann, but that really that sent a message to me that our leadership is not really prioritizing our education dollars very well.